welcome back, and thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Colored In podcast. I'm your host, N.A.I, that's N.A.I, because I'm nice and innovative. So, today we're going to be tackling our second pillar, focusing on relationships. For those who may be new to the series or not familiar with the themes, let me be the first to welcome you to the crew. CREW, CREW, is an acronym for the four themes this podcast is going to focus on. It stands on career and culture, relationships, education, and wellness. I decided to focus my podcast on these themes because I think they exemplify some key concepts that can give us a structured way at looking at the world or at society in general. I go into it a lot about what these topics mean for me in the first episode. So if you have not checked that out, be sure to check out episode 1 and all the other episodes that have already been posted. And of course, don't forget to connect with us on Instagram, like our posts, share our episodes, and DM us your feedback at _colored_in. All right, so like I mentioned, we are going to be doing our first dive into the relationship pillar. And I'll tell you guys that right off the bat, I struggled with this theme, mainly because it's just so loaded. The thing about relationships that make it so difficult to talk about is the simple fact that it is just such a diverse topic and it's always open to interpretation. So there are so many different angles to tackle this theme from. But I didn't let that deter me. And I was like, I'm not giving up on this pillar. And so I was doing some research, trying to find some inspiration. And I actually got inspired by the YouTube channel called As Is. And it's a YouTube channel that is affiliated with the BuzzFeed network. And they did a video called Questions Guys Have for Girls. And so I basically took that concept and kind of made it my own and actually created my first official segment. So I'm excited to present to you guys Man-splaining, questions women actually want answers to. And basically what I'm going to be doing here is polling for questions from all my ladies in the audience, all my ladies in the crew, from my girlfriends. And I'm going to ask them to men around the world so we can get some perspective and insight into the alluring male gaze. The interview that I'm going to be doing today, it's going to be with 3 of my really good male friends. And of course, as a disclaimer, it's going to be done virtually because, as you all know, Auntie Rona is still in America, alive and kicking. So, to practice safety measures and social distancing, me and my special guest are going to be having this conversation virtually. Now, before we actually launch into this segment, I want to put a disclaimer here that each of these answers are the opinions of these men. They are not reflective of the male population. There are going to be some guys out there who agree and who have similar thoughts. In fact, share their answers with your guy friends and see where their head is at. That might be something interesting for you to do. But there are going to be also a lot of men that will not agree with these opinions. So please, ladies and gentlemen, take these opinions as they are, which are opinions. Okay, so with that, let me introduce you guys to my panelists. First up, we have George Samuels II, who is an alumni of Pace University. George graduated with a Master's of Science in Computer Science and is currently a freelance software developer. George, say hi to the crew.
How you doing, everybody? George, nice to meet y'all.
Next, we have Jesse Atto. My main man, Jesse, is a mid-20 something Ghanaian American who is a recent graduate from the Bronx.
What up? What up? Nice to meet y'all.
Also, just as a disclaimer, I asked them to give me a bio. I didn't make them up for them. And quite frankly, this is what we got. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have Kevin Bernard Jones. Kevin is a resident from Atlanta, Georgia, who moved up to New York. He's a recent graduate from Fordham University. Woo woo, that's my alma mater. And he's pursuing a master's in fine arts at the NYU Graduate Acting Program. And fun fact, he loves French vanilla ice cream.
Hey, what's going on? Nice to meet y'all.
So these are my lovely, lovely male panelists who are going to be here today to be answering some questions for us. So guys, you kind of already know what we plan to do here. I'm going to be asking you a series of questions and you're going to answer them. It's pretty simple. And of course, I just ask that you answer the questions in the order that I just introduced you guys as, so that it can be a little bit less confusing for the crew. if you need extra time to prepare your answers, just say pass, or say come back to me, or nah, give me some time, and we'll come back to you. And if you just plain old don't want to answer the question, feel free to say no, not answering that, or too personal, or again, pass, and we'll skip you. But you are only allowed to skip one question for this session.
Sounds good.
All right, great. So George is ready to jump into it. So we're going to get into the first question here. And my first question for you guys will be, do stretch marks matter?
That is a great question. I know stretch marks are seen as something ugly that's on the body, something that's more like a mutation, but I think that they're sexy as something else. Here's why. Because they're natural. They're a thing that's naturally happening with the body. It's not something that was augmented or mutation. And in the right spot, they can really get things going, if you know what I mean. I don't know like what the panel actually, what the age of the panel is, but what we can do is y'all gonna grow up today. And that is my take on stretch marks. Stretch marks are very nice and they're very acceptable.
I concur. I agree with most of what George said. I think that stretch marks are natural. I personally don't care for them. I don't particularly like find them like I don't sexualize them. But I do think they're normal, and I think it's weird to find them unattractive because they are normal and they can't be controlled. Um, but my response to that actually is that's just my personal opinion, right? And I would actually like to know if women even care whether or not men care about stretch marks. I think nowadays women care about things for themselves so much that looking for male approval on anything these days is kind of taboo. So that would just be my response.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone said. I mean, I believe that their stretch marks are natural and there's something you can't control. Um, I believe in naturalism when it comes to female beauty. I just don't. I don't know if I can curse, but I don't care about stretch marks. So I think it's a beautiful thing because it's natural. It's something that God or the universe has given this person. Men can get stretch marks as well. And so it's just, I don't care. Yeah.
I was going to just add one more thing. You said men can get stretch marks. I have stretch marks. So why would I discriminate against somebody and I have stretch marks?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Like I said, you get them in the right place. They're good. Like I got them right on my shoulders. It sort of looks like I have like a shoulder tattoo or something like that. It's kind of cool. It's a natural tattoo.
Yeah. Let me ask you. You said the right place. So what is the wrong place there?
The wrong place? I don't know. Like on your face? I don't know if it's impossible. But let's say like you get them there. Like obviously the right place would be, I guess, for female, like on the thigh, buttocks, or, something like that. Love yourself. Let's start there.
Yeah.
Before somebody can love you, you gotta love yourself.
I agree.
Amen. All right, George. Don't come on here trying to take over my show, okay? I think we have an overwhelming agreement that stretch marks don't matter. And when somebody asked me this question, I wanted to answer. I'd be like, so what? I was like, even if they did, who gives a damn? Like, and so that goes back to Jesse's question. Do we care if you guys care about stretch marks? Some women do. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, people spend thousands of dollars. There's a whole industry dedicated to erasing stretch marks, right? More often than not, it's just kind of one of those things that women are just like, listen, it is what it is. And like you said, in some places, like George said, if it's in the right place, or if you see it in the right place, it can be a little bit more of a body enhancement type of thing. It's a weird, I'm gonna say, fetish. Not to say that George is fetishizing stretch marks, but it's just one of those things that we learn to grow with it and live with it, and we do go through that insecurity phase where we're just like, damn, I got stretch marks or something like that. But it's definitely something that women more often than not can get over pretty quickly. But glad to know you guys don't care. Whoever your significant others are, they are blessed, because sadly some men do care. Okay, our next question is, do you always pay on the first date personally for you? And then in general, should men always pay on the first date?
Okay, so let's just jump right into this one. How about this? Yeah, the guy should always pay. Why? Because 95% of the time, the guy is the one who's asking the female out on the date. So if I've always told anybody that I went out with, dated, I would say, look, I brought you here, so I'm gonna pay. There was some females, they like to be noble when I'll pay. No. You came out with me, so it's on me. Next date, if you wanna take me out, that's on you. But this is on me. So that's what I would say. It's definitely something that you should do, unless obviously y'all just friends. But yeah, I would say 100%.
So here's my very unpopular opinion about this topic, right? I don't believe that I want to say finances should enter or have any real place in a romantic kind of union, right? I think that money problems is probably one of the leading strains in long-term serious relationships or even petty relationships. And I think the fact that men and women both, kind of perpetuate how much money means in a relationship can kind of cause a lot of unnecessary issues. Whether or not a man should pay on the first date, I think that people should come prepared always to take care of themselves. I think that any man or woman who looks down on another man or woman for not paying is kind of missing the point, right? Because while I do, and I have heard George's opinion like a lot, my response to that is when you kind of judge a person based on their gestures to pay or kind of expect the person to pay because they ask you out, you're kind of missing the point of what the date is for, right? I'm inviting a person to spend time with you. You know what I'm saying? And to get to know you or whatever the case is. And I think that it has a lot of real world ramifications when men do pay for dates because that's what they're taught, that's what's expected. But on the flip side, they expect sex afterwards, or they have another expectation upon the woman because they spent money on them. So I think that if you just eliminate money out of it and people come prepared to take care of themselves and you just are able to focus on the union after you take out the money, I think that you're able to kind of get to the heart of what the relationship is actually about. But I do think that in my experience, like I do pay on first dates, despite the fact that this is what I think, and mostly because it's just easier, right? It's easier. Women do look at you different when you don't. People feel different about it. So to kind of cut across all of that, I kind of just do what I'm supposed to do. But I think that people should start thinking about it differently, especially young people.
I probably have an unpopular opinion as well. It blends in with what George and Jesse were both saying. I was just talking to my sister about this recently, and she did not agree with all that I said. And it's pretty much. I'll start with the first question. I do pay on the first date, but I do not. I do not expect for me to only pay on the first date. Let's say, or not expect, but let's say if I take a woman out or ask a woman out, we go to a nice place, whatever the case, and the bill comes, of course take out my wallet. But if she offers to pay half, split the bill, then I wouldn't be opposed to it. Because I don't, and this goes to this goes to answer the next question, is I think that the tradition of guys paying on the first date has to do with something of implementing the simple fact that men are the ones with money, right? And I think we live in a very, very different time, and where women are more independent than they were even years ago. And I feel like we shouldn't continue the tradition of the man just having to pay for on the first date. That's just my opinion, but I think that the debate is, for me, is should a woman expect a man to pay on the first date and stuff like that. And yeah, so but I do pay on the first date. you know
Disclaimer.
but it is. And what I would say is, if my lady offered to split the bill, then I wouldn't say no. I would say, yeah, that's cool with me. It doesn't mean that I'm broke, doesn't mean that I'm cheap or anything. It just means that, hey, we both enjoyed our time.
And if I may just piggyback on what Kevin said, right? What's with the expectation, right? Why do women expect men to pay, and why do they look down upon men that do or don't? And what if I was broke, right? Are we saying that those who are broke are not able to avail themselves of interpersonal romantic relationships? I don't think that's fair, right? I think that, as Kevin was saying, in 2020, right, men are not just the sole breadwinners. Women can have jobs. I think of a scenario all the time, right? What if you dating your coworker, you guys work at the same job, you guys are both making minimum wage at Forever 21. Why should he have to use part of his same salary that you get to finance this date that you guys are both on, right? Why? I think that what you do when you expect anybody to pay for anything is you're saying that their time is, or your time is worth more. Your time is more valuable than the other person's time, and therefore they should pay for it. And I think that that is inherently problematic and can make men or anybody in that situation just feel less about themselves or feel like money should be the focus as opposed to the relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Also, I have a question, but what if a woman asks the man out, like, hey, let's go out for happy hour drinks or something, which actually I've seen happen before. When I'm like, hey, what are you doing after work? Let's go for happy hour drinks. Then is it, does that woman pay for it? It's like a first date. Does that woman pay? I guess if it's happy hour drinks, is happy hour drinks considered a date? But that's another question. But does that woman pay for the first date? You know what I mean? So I don't know.
I feel like in that situation to be more of a plutonic, hey, let's go out and get some drinks. Unless it's more like, do you want to go see this movie and then go out for like something to eat? That's clearly a date notion, right? Not necessarily like, hey, let's just hang out at the bar. You know what I mean? Like hang out at the bar. I mean, you got your money, especially if you're my coworker. You can get this. So I don't know. I don't know, fellas. I would definitely say that that it's up to the man, but I don't know. I appreciate both y'all opinion though. It was definitely good to hear both y'all.
Yeah, likewise.
I'm really glad I gave y'all a question that y'all don't agree on right off the bat, because I didn't want this to be like, yeah, I agree type of conversation. So many interesting points that was brought up. It's funny because there is kind of an expectation for men to pay on the first date. I want to put a disclaimer though, like not so much anymore. It's definitely more of a fantasy now than an expectation, right? So like I've gone out on dates where I've paid for the whole thing or where I've done half, but that was like just me not trying to like make it awkward, or it's just like, you know what, like I had a great time here. Yeah, I'm gonna fork over my money. I don't care who pays, right? But that's just like a general sentiment. But I've had like in early on in the dating scene, it was definitely more of a case where I expected the guy to foot the bill, and I just was getting hit in the face with reality time and time again. Like, honey, we don't have money like that, right? We just can't be expending ourselves like that. So you cover yourself, I cover myself, but we still had a great time. So with that type of experience, I think more and more I'm just more inclined to like go in being like, I'm gonna have to pay my half, or I'm probably gonna pay my half. And if I don't, cool, great, that's awesome, that's like a nice little bonus to the date. But if I do, that does not take away from the person that I'm with or from the experience that I'm having, especially if it's positive. And I will say overwhelmingly now, especially in the age of the independent woman, it's definitely more of a fantasy than an expectation. And I say fantasy in the sense of like, it could happen, it could not. Either way, like that does not make or break the experience that's currently happening, whether it's good or bad. It's a give or take, guys. It really is.
I'll just say one thing before you go to the next question. Many dates that I've been on to where the female looked at me like I was crazy, almost like she was like waiting for me to ask or to say like, hey, reach for the wallet. I'm sure you've been there, N.A.I. You look, and when the guy does it, especially like when I did it, they give me like the sign of like relief, like, oh my God, like, thank God you reached for your wallet. Because it says a lot when a man can do that versus, saying like, you got me because let's split, something like that. So it sets a standard. It's a message in itself. It's almost like an unwritten rule. It's a chess move, if you think.
Yeah, so I would say, George, there is definitely a unwritten social contract when it comes to like dates from the societal perspective. And the reason why, and trust me, I've been in that spot where I'm just like, oh, thank God.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Ooh, that $20 is staying in my pocket.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Right. But that relief is more of like just my own financial distress as opposed to like the expectation that's been set up around it. So the reason why I don't fall into that whole man should pay for my date, is because, like Kevin alluded to at the beginning, it's definitely a patriarchal move, right? When the guy is like, I got it, boom, money on the table. That was stemming down from historical motives and that historical patriarchal society where for a very long time, not only women could not read, write, or do anything, they didn't earn money. They weren't allowed to have a trade. So it was like, yeah, the onus was put on the man because we quite frankly didn't have that right to do it for ourselves. So that is kind of still the notion that kind of stems down from that history. But on the other sense, it does kind of put up this perception of stability. And again, in the patriarchal sense, a lot of women, a lot of us are grown or raised to seek stability and find it and sink our teeth into it and never let it go, because for a very long time, that's the only thing we were living for. Like when we were born, we were taken care of by our mothers. By 18, we had to be married off up to a husband that could take care of us, or else we're done for. Right. So there is like a level of like, there is markers that first date can have when it comes to footing the bill. And a lot of it does have a patriarchal notion to it. Now, will I say that's all the way negative? No, because again, against that sense of stability or that perception of stability is attractive. And I would say, and I would argue it's attractive to men and to women. Like, I don't think anybody has been like turned off if their partner or their girlfriend was like, oh no, I got it, let me take care of it this time. Right. Because it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, she got money. Right. So like I said, there's two different sides to the coin that can be argued for. Personally, for me, and I am speaking for myself, I just don't have that expectation anymore. And if it happens, that's just kind of like bonus points for the guys. One, because financially, things are weird. Things are weird financially, especially in this pandemic moment. So it's just like, if you don't got it, I don't want to make you feel bad for it. And I don't want you to feel less than of me or less worthy of me because you can't pay this bill. But at the same time, like, I'm a Libra, spoil me, please. Treat me like a princess. Do it all, right? I'll take it if you can give it. If you can't, that's also okay. I can give just as well. So it's like that little weird balance. I tend to be more on the spoiled side though, but that's just me. And there are women who are just on the like, no, like I will never pay for a guy. I will never pay for my boyfriend's anything unless it's like a Christmas gift or a special occasion. So like I said, definitely like a heads and tails situation.
I will, before you go on, to respond to that, I would just want to say, and this could be debatable, but in my experience, and I've had a lot of experience on dates, not to, I think what it comes from is age and position, like status, you know what I mean? Like where you're at in life and what career you have or whatever. One of my best friends went on a date to the movies on 42nd Street. I don't know if y'all are in New York, but it sounds like you guys are according to your accent. But on 42nd Street at the AMC, and he took this girl out, and he went to the counter to pay for the tickets. She pulled out moves like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. She went to the bathroom. She comes back, and and he just paid for his ticket. And she was like, "Where's my ticket at?" He was like, "I don't have a ticket for you." So she left him. She like dipped on him and went home. And I because he's he's like, I'm paying for me. He has a very different attitude than we do. But yeah, just, and he was in his early 20s at that time, and she was too. So
Yeah, listen, there are some women out here who, not to be like, there are women out, but like there are a lot of women out here who just don't have the same understanding of finances and money as other people. And I will say that a lot of like the girls you were describing, Kevin, as like the corporate baddies, like they graduate college, they get into like a big four or firm, and making like minimum 60K, 50K a year, whatever. And it's like money becomes less of a stringent issue because they kind of have that cushion, right? And they kind of understand money from a different view. And that can sometimes trickle into their romantic life and into their interpersonal relationships. So, yeah, I think a status, and I think also just like plain old financial cushion can definitely play a part in how the first date ends up when the bill comes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And just a quick public service announcement. If you can't even, like, for a female perspective, at least act like you're trying to pay. Come on, man. Stop playing around. At least act like you want
You
to
know
pay.
what? I'm not mad at that. The same way, like I say, give what you give out what you want to receive. Like maybe you're not trying to pay, but at least I think that's a level of courtesy. Actually,
Right.
I think that can be like courteous behavior that you want your potential partner to know that you have. So,
All right.
yeah.
Stop acting like the bill's coronavirus. Pick it up. At least look at it. And then I'll say, no, I got you. Don't worry about it. That's it. It says a lot about you. It says a lot.
I agree. I don't disagree with that. Okay, so we've been on this for a while. So our next question: would you date someone? So go through a dating phase, kind of like the talking phase. You get to know them a little bit, and make it official. So like become boyfriend and girlfriend, without knowing what sex is like with them.
This is an interesting question. This is actually how I prefer it. And for me, because I would like to definitely get to know the person that I'm trying to be with or get to know really for them. So, without sex involved, without any of the physical stuff, I want to know who you are because, sex is great. It's amazing. But at the same time, that's not the only thing that's going to help hold any sort of future relationship stable. So I have to actually like you because if not, then what's the point of being with that specific person? So that's where different things come into play of, I guess, not being with one person or whatever. But if you're trying to be with one person, you gotta like that person before anything else, and then maybe move on from there. Now, different topic, but if you're talking about marriage, then it's a completely different story. But in this time, it's just you know I'm getting to know you, you're getting to know me. Why don't we, before we make it official, let me actually make sure I actually like you as a person, and then we can go deeper. Here's another important reason why nobody really talks about this. But for me, if I don't know you, then I'm not going to know sexually what's your background, what's your, like, you have any STIs? Do you have problems? Do you have the herpes? Things like that. I need to know because I'm not going to lay down with you if I don't know your sexual history. That's just me. Condoms do a lot, but they also don't do that much. So let me hear you guys take on that. That's what I feel.
In my experience, I think that there is, to George's point, there's a lot of value for sure in waiting before you get physically intimate with somebody, right? I think that in this generation, specifically, like we're really quick um, to do hookups and to um, just kind of be very sex oriented, and I think that um, that can be very dangerous and damaging for people when you're not approaching sex in a very um, safe way that kind of encompasses just how deep and intimate it can be. Um, and taking the time to get to know a person for who they are, I think definitely can enhance the experience. The yearning for it and the wanting for it can make it cooler. So there's a lot of value in waiting. On the other hand, though, I can see that if you don't have any kind of physical intimacy with somebody, that can kind of drive the decision to make a relationship official for some people anyway, right? Because it's like you have this rule where you want to wait before you have sex with them, and whole time in the back of your mind that you're getting to know this person, you're thinking about having sex. So that can also come into play. And on the other hand as well, I think that if two people are mature and experienced, I don't think that having sex before you make it official or at any point in a relationship can kind of bar that relationship from being just as substantive, just as deep, just as mature. Um, and I also do think that sex is a big part in romantic relationships. Um, I think it's Chris Tucker like has this stand up bit, but he's saying that the key to successful relationships, um, to put it not in his very vulgar terms, is having sex and going places, right? And that through relationships, you'll always have like strife. You're gonna have beef. You're gonna have drama and arguments. But if the sex is good, right, and if you guys are doing things together, then you can withstand a lot of relationship problems. And I think that sexual chemistry is so important, and that to kind of make this commitment to somebody without having any idea about what your sexual chemistry is, because I do believe that sexual chemistry can be independent from the actual relationship. I believe that you can get along great with people and have a romantic relationship and have trash sex, and you can always build on your sex with somebody, but there's no harm in exploring that before y'all make it official if both parties are consenting and that's what y'all want to do. So that's kind of where I am with it. Like, would I date somebody without having sex? Of course. I think there's a lot of value in it, like I said, but is it a requirement? Is it a necessity? Do I look down on anybody who decides to have sex premature to that? Like, absolutely not.
I don't know, man. I think that having if I had sex with someone before getting to know them, for some reason, and that probably has to do with trust issues or something, but I I can no longer get to know that person, that woman, any deeper than I would like to, because we've established some sort of relationship based on a sexual chemistry. I know it can evolve and become something else, something more romantic. But for me, if I'm having sex with you and before we get to know each other, then I think that's just what it's going to be. Now, if I get to know someone before having sex, and those tend to be how my relationships end up as, then it's something I look forward to. It's something that is invigorating. It's something that it's just exciting when it happens because there's so much trust. Like having sex with somebody before you get to know someone is cool. It's all good, you know. I think it's about skill and technique when it comes to that. But when it comes to something you're really like, who you really really cherish and really got to know, and like this person's life a little bit, then it becomes more intimate. That's where, yeah, intimate.
Okay. This is great content. This is exactly what us women want to know, right? We don't know the answers to these questions, right? And these are the things that we think about. So like when we're on the first date or like the third date and we're like, should I? Because like, dang, this guy is like really cute. He's super attractive. I like him a lot. Can we go back? Like, can we head to the crib? Are you gonna think less of me? Are you gonna think more of me? Does it not matter? Like, am I gonna be easy lay? Like, these are things that sadly women very much think about in their day to day. And I think you guys gave really good answers and really good explanations. It's so funny because I was expecting different answers. I expected you guys to kind of say that you date someone, but you don't know if you'd make it official. And I guess that's me projecting because I don't know if I can do that. I think I want to know what the sexual chemistry is like and what that relationship or what that role is going to play before I decide to like be your girlfriend and like kind of let that evolve into something else. But I will say that with this caveat that like if I'm your girlfriend, I'm like I've done my due diligence, right? Like I know what you're about. We dated for a while. Like I typically like to date for a pretty good amount of time, enough for me to get to know someone. And then when it's finally up to girlfriend stage, then like as long as things are progressing in the way that they are and we're helping each other and we're growing with each other, that's leading to marriage, which also determined or it's also like probably the reason why like I have not been in a lot of relationships in my whole life because I do have that long-term projection in mind. So it's like before I hit that second notch of the relationship meter from boyfriend, girlfriend to fiance to wife, like I gotta know if I can be sexually satisfied by you. And of course, there is always room to play around with that, and there's always room to grow and elevate that. But I need to know that baseline level first, because it could be that I like you a lot, and you're great, but the fact that your sex game isn't there for me, I'm not sure if I'm willing to put up with the other flaws that I was willing to put up with before, if I knew that the sex was actually good. So I don't know if this is kind of indicative of how women think of sex versus men. I do think it's important to I think it's important to have that conversation about sexual history, George, like you said, but it's like, at least in the way that I date specifically, and if there's anyone out there who dates differently than me, then obviously the answer is different. But personally, it's like I kind of need to know where our sexual chemistry is at first before I kind of step on that next pedestal to be in the long haul and that long term growth with you.
Do you think that a man can improve? So let's say the man is bad, your first encounter, your first sexual encounter with this man. Do you think, and you're like, oh, hell no, whatever the case is, do you think he can improve? There's always I mean, unless he physically cannot improve, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I definitely get where you're coming from. I used to think that they could. I think through experience, I think it's always great to be with a man who's willing to shift and pivot towards what you need sexually to feel satisfied. So like I am, and this is gonna get personal, but like I'm pretty vocal in bed, and not to say that I'm loud, but it's more of like I will tell you what I want. If you're doing something that's not really sitting right with me, I'll say it nice, sensually, whatever the case it is. But it's like I'm not gonna let you keep doing something to me that it's not working or not making me feel good. I think what I've run into and experienced is that some men, especially around this age, I would say that maybe men who are a little bit older are probably a lot more flexible with it. But a lot of guys think their sex game is great, and they're not willing to adapt or change. Like they're kind of set in their ways, because they've probably had other successful experiences. But one thing is that sexual experience will not be the same for every single woman. I have a hope that out there is a man, especially if he loves you, especially if he's in there with you for the long haul, who would be willing to kind of pivot or change their sex game to be satisfactory for whoever their partner is, even if it means doing something that's a little bit outside of the comfort zone or outside of their comfort zone, and vice versa on the woman. So like maybe I have to pivot a little bit to make him satisfied and for us to both reach a peak. But more often than not, people are not trying to do that, right? Especially in kind of these more fickle relationships that tend to be the trend nowadays. But like I say, me dating with, especially with a long-term projection in mind, I kind of need that baseline to be there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be immaculate. And like you said, like I believe a lot in sexual evolution. So it can definitely get better over time, but I don't think it will like inherently change. And if that guy is having to put in work and work and work every single time, like at some point, both of y'all are just going to get tired. And then that's one thing less the relationship has to enjoy.
Hmm. I would say it goes both ways. If y'all both willing to try, it's the only way to survive. So,
that's a good, yeah, I like
that.
that.
You can't blame one or the other. It has to be both of y'all are willing to, stick through it and sort of get better. That's what it's all about.
I agree. And I'm absolutely not opposed to that at all, George. I think that definitely works. But I also feel like life is already kind of not easy. Life is kind of hard. Make it easy for yourself. And if unless this guy or this girl is your absolute end all be all and everything else is perfect, it's like, you know what? You might be able to find all of that plus someone who can satisfy you sexually in someone else. And, you just have to be willing to kind of keep the wheels moving. I think also what's dangerous is when you find enough good traits in someone, and so you kind of accept all the bad things, but then you expect that person to stay that way for the rest of their life. And it's like you're not giving them the opportunity to grow, pivot, change as life events happen to them. And it's like you end up or could potentially end up resenting that person for changing, for evolving, because you already made a decision to accept the certain level of traits that you had fell in love with at the beginning. So yeah, we've been at this for a while because you guys are just so awesome at answering these questions. So I just want to ask, do you guys have some gas in your tank for one more question, or do you guys kind of want to call it quits now?
I think we're good. I think we're good to go. And
Yeah, I'm with it.
just throw it at us. What you got?
All right. Okay. Yes. All right. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna ask this question mostly because it's something that we've alluded to in our previous answers. So I think it'd be nice to end it in this with this last question. The question is, how do you set your intentions in a relationship? And personally, do you set intentions in a relationship, or is that something you expect your partner to do?
Okay, now I believe what you mean by intentions as far as like what do you mean to do like
Right.
in the relationship. So
Yes. What do you want out of the relationship? Why are you hitting me up? Why are you
I,
talking?
so so I think this is something that, at least for me, I try to do during the, I guess, the classic courting period where you're like trying to figure out if this person is right for you. So that's probably another reason why I don't just, sling around. And for people who don't know what sling around means, that just means, when you guys get it. This is a grown up place. I like to let the person know exactly like what I'm trying to do here, get to know you, go farther if the chemistry is right and we're, on the same page morally, I guess, socially, and you're just not a horrible person, you know what I mean? So throughout each date, I would say like you let that person know that you're not just having fun with the person. I mean, you are, but it's not just all about that. You're just trying to let the person know who you are through the activities or through whatever you guys are doing. So, and hopefully, y'all like be having these deeper conversations throughout the dating phase to where you guys get to know each other's intentions by just being honest. I think that's huge. It's just talking through it and say like, this is what I'm looking for, and would that person actually match what you're looking for? Instead of see where you don't talk, that's where it starts to get into the ghosting phase. Nobody's really honest with each other, and then the other person starts to see what that other person is, and they don't like it, but they didn't communicate to the person like, hey, that's not really what I'm looking for. Let's go other places, and that's where the loss of communication comes into play. And yeah, that's what would I expect the girl to do the same. Yeah, because that's how you see if the intentions would actually align. So, this is what I'm trying to do. What are you trying to do? And that's why I feel like maybe not blatantly have that conversation, but it should definitely be felt throughout each, and eventually should be talked about to get to that whole entire stage of making things official and whatnot. So that's what I say my answer would be. Interested to see what you guys say.
So for me, for a long time, intentions and the idea behind intentions have been kind of like weird to me, right? So specifically, people that are actively pursuing long-term relationships, right? And again, like I'm a younger person, so growing up, it's always been odd to me. Like, how do you know that you want a long-term serious relationship with this person that you're only interested in? Probably based off their physical appearance. Like, you know what I'm saying? So to me, the idea behind intentions, as it relates to dating, is kind of you're setting yourself up for, or and this is just what I used to think, by the way, but you're setting yourself up and applying pressure to a whole human being, and where you want your relationship to go without getting the chance to organically explore that person and that relationship for what it is. And I feel like you're focused on the relationship or your intention about whatever it is. It could be sex, right? You focus on the sex of the relationship as opposed to the actual person that's in front of you. And that's why I always thought intentions could be tricky. And the older I got, I realized that there are people in this world that just know what they want, or at least know what they don't want, and that's okay, right? There's nothing wrong if somebody's 17 years old, fresh out of high school, and they want to get married, right? If that's what they want, if that's what they see for their own happiness in their life, that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with young people that want to settle down. But for me personally, I've always like to allow the relationship to again kind of grow organically, right? I've slipped into situationships and entanglements of the sort kind of unintentionally, right? Where I wasn't moving with intention, or rather, let me say, my intention was just to. My go-to line was like, "Oh, I'm just chilling. Like that's what I'm doing, right?" And to me, that was my intention. My intention was to explore the person for who they were in the moment, and to enjoy that, and to see where that led. And then as time went on, right, my heart would tell me what my intention was, and before I know it, I'm dating this person for like a year. So it's like I didn't come into the relationship with any kind of preconceived notions of what I wanted, but I allowed the relationship to show me what I thought would work out. And that's kind of where I am with intentions now. I'm realizing that as I'm getting older and transitioning to different points in my life, there are certain kind of lifestyles that I would like to leave behind, and certain types of new lifestyles that I would like to explore. And having that kind of baseline intention, I think, is healthy. And I think it's important to kind of know what you want and find people and communicate that to people who want the same thing as you, so that you guys can grow and explore together. Um, I forgot the full question. It was I don't know if I answered it.
So you got the first part. Second part is, would you expect your girlfriend or your partner to set the intentions?
I don't know about set the intentions. I think communication of intentions is just like what's gonna be the important part of that, right? If you know that you just want something casual and that's what you know, then communicate that, right? So that the person that doesn't want that can know how to move and how to navigate. But as far as setting intentions, I don't think anybody can set intentions for anybody or for a union that requires two people. I think people need to always communicate and be transparent, and then allow themselves to make proper decisions based on that transparency.
I'll start by saying entanglements has been word of the month thus far, and I'll start with, like, if you have great intentionality with this, just having entanglements, or just wanting to be friends, or whatever the case may be, I think that goes a long way in your relationship. I think that like George and Justin were saying, honesty, communication, that's all a part of um, a growing relationship. I think you cannot, you know, when I was in my, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever, I was playing all these games, I would get a girl's number, and then I would wait 3 days, and then like, hey, it was good, or like, we had sex, and I would wait 3 days after I hit her up. After we had sex, I would wait 3 days to hit her up. And it's just confusing. It's wishy washy. It's like, we're taught as men. You guys probably were taught differently. I don't know, but at least in my experience and growing up in these high schools, where people, men are taught to act a certain way. When you really want to just be lovey-dovey, but really you have to be, you have to play all these games just to get the girl's attention. We think this is what a girl want. We want to be soft, but we have to be hard. You know what I mean? And I think that played a great, that trickled down to my late teenage and early adulthood years. And now I've grown out of, like, just be upfront, and if I want to do this, I want with that. If this is what I'm looking for, then I'm gonna let her know. You know what I mean? And I think it just goes a long way. You get the woman's respect. If she declines your intentions, you're like, you know what? That's not what I'm looking for. At the end of the day, it just saves you less stress. It just saves you. It gives you comfort. In your relationship with that person, and she respects you at the end of the day. I was gonna make one more point, but I totally forgot. But yes, yes, that's it. Oh, wait. No, I did. I said what I had to say about the girlfriend thing. Yeah, so that's it. Yeah.
Are you sure? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
No, I think that was it. I think it's just really everyone should just be communicative and honest with each other. And of course, you're going to have your ups and downs. But as long as you know what you want, as long as you're receiving the same energy, then it's gonna be great. It's gonna be a great freaking life. I don't know if I can curse. I want to curse, but it's gonna be a great life. So
I gotta agree with that. If you communicate, and everything is better. It's hard, but it's something you got to do in any sort of stage of it. I've always felt like having that transparency with anyone on any level, platonic or intimate, it just makes things better. So let that be another public service announcement.
Yeah. So first off, yes, you can curse. Sorry, I didn't say that at the beginning. I curse a lot. I have a sale. I actually don't curse a lot. But sometimes it slips out, and it is what it is. It's a part of the language. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I wish I could, play devil's advocate, but I would never be the type of person to say, keep things to yourself, don't communicate, don't, be transparent, um, especially in a society where just people's emotions are becoming more and more confusing. Like it's literally becoming more confusing for us ourselves to actually internalize and process our emotions, because there's just so many different external triggers that are meant to disrupt our natural way of thinking and our natural process of thinking. So if you can communicate and be transparent about what you want and say what you mean, quite frankly, and express how you feel, that's always just the best way to kind of go into any type of relationship, whether it's platonic or not. So it's nice to know that at least 3 men out of the entire male population would agree that communication is key. So it's really awesome that we ended on that note. But with that being said, that was our last question. And I just want to take some time to thank you guys for, one, taking the time out of your day to talk to us and talk to the crew. And two, allowing yourself to be vulnerable on this platform and kind of speak your truth and, share your opinions with us. So I said at the beginning, these are opinions, quite frankly, and that's how we should take them as, because obviously you guys are not a representative sample of the entire male population. But again, these are questions women have, and some women just don't have the courage to ask them. So I wanted to definitely use this platform to get those questions out and get some answers back from my ladies out there. So again, thank you guys so much for your time. It's literally the most valuable thing you guys could have given me today. And I just want to say I appreciate you.
Oh, we appreciate you as well from the men community, and we're glad that we could answer these questions, because the questions that need to be answered. So let's have that tough conversation.
Exactly. Amen.
I second that, and I just also want to say, questions and podcasts aside, I think that these are really cool and interesting conversations to have, and I'm glad that I got to speak with all of y'all about this. I think that young men should be having these kind of conversations, and men and women alike should kind of. I mean, I know this is questions that women want to know the answers from men. So why not actually have those conversations? Why not ask, the men in your life what they think about these things? So this is really cool that we're doing this, and I appreciate y'all for participating.
yeah, I found this very stimulating, and I'm so happy to be a part of this. This was such a great experience to have. Let's continue to have these conversations during quarantine, and so when we come back to, dating, then we can have a better understanding amongst each other, and we can grow from there. So yeah, thank you.
So it sounds like y'all want to do this again, which, great, because I could keep this going. We got plenty of questions for you guys. But I also would tap on you guys to also, if you have any questions for women, because I am going to be doing the female version of this, where I'm going to be taking questions from guys and I'm going to be making a woman answer them. And yeah, I'm really excited to kind of kick this off. And I hope that you guys will be a part of this journey with.
Thank you. I'll gladly come back. Just let me know.
All righty. Amen.
Mhm.
All right, that is it for today, crew. Thank you guys for listening, and be sure to share this episode with your friends so that they can join the crew. Find us on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Anchor.fm. Connect with us on Instagram @_colored_in, and be sure to give us your thoughts. We had an amazing conversation today, and I would love for all my male listeners in the crew to answer these questions. And give me your thoughts on what these on these questions. I'm excited to hear from you guys, and I can't wait to speak with you soon. Bye.